Hello, everyone. It's Hashi Richards here on another Friday. Hope everyone's doing well. So, today has been just been sort of generally sad, this week, actually for a while, um, with all the events going on. And it's just disturbing, the state of our society, um, with what I call the modern day lynchings, right? Um, you know, there's just so much to say on it. I just wanted to say that, you know, with everything that's going on, people have been asking, what can they do, right? What can they personally do in situations like this to help or to support, right? And there's so many things that people can do, to be allies in situations like this because it's not going to stop, right? I mean, George Floyd, unfortunately, won't be the last African American um, killed by police, right? Christian Cooper won't be the last African American man to have the cops called on him, right? So it's not going to stop. So in the meantime, what can we do to help, right? And so people have been asking me, hey, what can I do? And I have personal experience with it, being a person of color and also being married to an African American man and having an African American son. So things that I've personally done have been educating myself, right? I've been doing that for years, supporting causes, people who are actively, or organizations that are actively fighting racial injustice, right? One example of an organization is the Equal Justice Initiative, founded by Brian Stevenson, who started the Innocence Project, right? And also, right now, currently in Minnesota, there's something called the Minnesota Freedom Fund, and they are supporting the protesters currently. So you can donate to them, right? So you can always help monetarily. You can also, besides educating yourself, you can speak about it, right? You can be an active voice. You can be an active supporting voice. You can post about it on Facebook. You can post about racial inequalities, right? You can be an active supporter, an active voice rather than just sitting in the back and just watching, right? You can do that because in this day and age and with social media, it's so much easier to have your voice heard. And instead of, so to speak, sitting on the sidelines, let's try that. Let's do that. Okay. Um, Another thing, and when I was thinking about ways that people can be allies, another way is to support your local leaders that want to make change and that will make change, support their campaigns monetarily and also actively by calling, helping, supporting, gathering supporters for them, right? Doing everything you can to make sure that they get elected so they can advocate for the change for the people. That's another thing you can do. There's just so many things you can do, rather than just sit idly and just watch it happen. I think it's good to assume, it's prudent to assume that racism is everywhere. And once you start from that standpoint, then you say, then I need to do something about it. I really need to do something about it. I was debating on whether I should bring this up, but yesterday I was out. I had to go run an errand. And when I was out, when it was in a store, and I was practicing social distancing, wearing a mask, and the store manager, she walked by the cash register and was talking to an African American man and telling him to get out and that he was trespassing and he had to wait for the police to come. And even though I was checking out, I said, I'm going to stay. I'm going to stay and figure out what's going on here because it didn't sit well with me. So I ended up checking out and I walked outside and waited. I waited outside the store until the police arrived, and I just stood there and they came and they questioned him. They asked him some questions, and then they went inside the store and talked to, I guess they were talking to the people inside the store, the employees, and then they came out, and the manager and another employee came outside, and they were talking to the police officer. At that point, one of the employees turned around and was asking, she asked me if what I was doing standing there, right? I'm like, I'm going to stand here. I'm going, this is a free country. I'm allowed to stand here and watch, which I did. And why was I standing there watching? Because I wanted to make sure that nothing was going to happen. And if I was going to start recording, I was going to start recording if I needed to. And fortunately, there was nothing happened. The gentleman was released, so to speak, and not arrested, not touched, treated very humanely, which I was so happy for. And it was just a big misunderstanding on the store's part, right? And so, but that's being an ally, right? That's being supportive. I could have just walked away and acted like nothing was happening, or, just left and went on with my day. And I chose not to. So those are things that you can do. You can be an ally in that way, right? So if you ever have any questions on what you can do, I have many suggestions. I may not have outlined all of them here, but you can always message me. You can always call me at that number, and I'd be more than happy to talk to you. I don't think I mentioned it yet, but one of the most important things you can do is talk to your children, or if you don't have children, other children, your relatives' children, because it really, really starts with our youth. And if we can get them thinking the right way, learning about racial inequality, what they can do to not promote it, not to think like that, then that changes a whole generation, right? And then that generation grows up, and then they have children. And so the cycle will repeat itself in a good way rather than the way it's repeated itself historically. So please, at any time, I welcome a discussion, welcome any calls or emails. You can always contact me to talk about that. So normally, we go over a little immigration roundup, and also any other questions that you may have. So this week, I've had a couple of estate planning new clients, and it's awesome because I feel like now, like I think I mentioned it last week, people are really getting their affairs in order. So please call me if you're interested in getting your estate plan done. I know people think estate plan sounds complicated and it's some big deal, and it doesn't have to be that way. In fact, we can do everything virtually. I've done Zoom consults and then email you the questionnaire, and then we can go over it together. Everything can be done on the phone, and then use a secure portal so your documents are protected. And we can do a drive-through signing, so no one is being in close quarters with each other, and everyone's social distancing. So we can do that. I have one scheduled for next week. So that's exciting. So all precautions are being taken. So don't worry about being possibly exposed to any communicable disease. Okay. All right. So here's my little immigration update. So June 4th, next week. What day actually? Let me see the actual day of June 4th. USCIS offices are opening, some of them. And that is going to be on, let's see, Thursday. Thursday is a day, which is so awesome. I'm excited because they're going to start, if you haven't already received a reschedule notice for your interview or biometrics appointment, all those are being sent. So if you haven't received it, you should be getting one if you had an interview that was canceled. So look out in the mail for that. And so when they do open, it's not going to be like it was before, right? So they're going to be implementing social distancing guidelines, like a lot of these places are doing right now. So if someone's asking, are they going to be safe to visit? Right. So they're going to take all the precautions necessary. So when you walk in, they're going to be checking your temperature, which again, you could be asymptomatic and not have a temperature, but at least that's one one way to check immediately if you may be symptomatic. Obviously, you can't, check asymptomatic people because they wouldn't have any signs, but at least that's one step that they're taking. They're going to not allow anyone in more than 15 minutes prior to your appointment. So sometimes clients show up an hour ahead and, totally understandable. They're nervous, but you won't be allowed into the building more than 15 minutes prior to your appointment. And they're not going to be having as many appointments, so they're going to be limiting the number of appointments. Probably similar to like the restaurants are doing now down here, where they're only allowing 50% capacity, right? So I think that's great. If you are my client and you had an appointment scheduled, you should have already received a reschedule notice, hopefully, or one should be coming in the mail, and I should have already been in touch with you. If you have any questions, call me and we can go over it. All right. So another good news is that, and by the way, some people have been asking, hey, they're closed, so I can't file my application or I can't file my petition. Yes, you absolutely can. They're closed to the public, but they're still open and working behind the scenes. And so you can still have your application filed and your petition filed now. And actually now is a really good time. Within the next week, if you want to get it done, you can give me a call because they're still not open to the public. So that means they have more time to be working on all of these receipt notices, right? So, okay. So the next good news is that back in March, USCIS suspended premium processing, which is like you pay more money and your petition gets processed faster. They stopped it for some applications and petitions, and now they're resuming come June. They're resuming the I-129, which is a fiancé visa, and also the I-140, which is the employee petition. So that's good news. So if you want to do that and get it in quick and pay a little extra, we can arrange to have that done. The other thing that people are talking about in the legal world and the immigration lawyer world is that they've been seeing an uptick in applications and petitions being rejected, right? Rejected because of missing or they're calling it incomplete information. So I'll give an example. Writing instead of writing N/A not applicable, you're writing the whole word out, or you're writing unknown or something like that. So they're either rejecting applications or denying them, right? And so if you get one of those denials or rejection notices, there's some best practices you can do. And one of them, the first one, is to call me. So we can go over the notice and figure out a strategy, right? So you can either, if it's rejected or denied, the best thing to do is, of course, call me. But then you can also, once we've talked, one of the options may be to refile it immediately, right? Or you can look at it and see, hey, is it going to result in a negative immigration consequence? And if so, let's look at the rejection and the denial and see if it matches the instructions. Were the instructions correct and the rejection was correct? Or did those two correlate, or was there something that they did in error, right? So we need to make sure that there was no error done on their part. And then if there was, we need to rectify it. We need to have supervisory review, right? So you need to make sure that you're reading the instructions and look at the denial notice or the rejection notice. And you can always call me. I would love to schedule a consultation with you and get it done. You want to make sure that if you're going to refile it, that you do it the right way, right? And so if you filed it on your own, you want to make sure you have an attorney that is competent to be able to help you if you're going to refile it. Because again, they're rejecting and denying very, very quickly. It's changed from a few years ago. And I really advise everyone to hire a competent attorney. If it's not me, somebody else, but preferably me, right? All right. And hey, Aisha. So that was that. So you can do either supervisory review, do a new cover letter, or even, litigation if it comes to that. So hopefully that you're not in that boat, but if you are in that boat, just give my office a call. All right. So the last thing I wanted to talk about was the Trump administration. So everyone knows the ban, right? That was effective, I think, April 23rd. It was supposed to be for 60 days. So I think it's ending on June 22nd. However, there's rumblings that the Trump administration is going to expand the ban for either another 30 or 60 days, extend the ban and expand it, right? And he's possibly going to expand it to include H-1B workers. And H-1B workers are people that come here on non-immigrant visas. They're highly skilled and they come here. I think there's like 500,000 of them here currently. And he's thinking about restricting those visas as well, which would be problematic for countries that send a lot of H-1B workers here. So let's be on the lookout for that. Again, there's been no official word from them yet on the extension or the expansion, but that's what I've been reading. And so I'm almost expecting it. In fact, they said it was going to happen this month, but the month is only like 2 more days. So I don't know if it's going to happen this month, but should definitely be happening before, June 22nd. So, and I don't think a lot of people are happy about that. In fact, H-1B workers that are here, some of them have lost their jobs, and they are wondering what they should do. So they should either try to extend their status, change their status, but definitely don't, if you can avoid it, fall out of status. The H-1B workers have a 60-day grace period to either transfer to another H-1B employer. But that's hard now too, because if you're being laid off from one H-1B employer, most likely another H-1B employer is not necessarily hiring at this time. So you want to make sure to keep your status current. So if you have any questions on that, you can always call my office and we can go over your options. But my recommendation, and I think other attorneys would agree with me, is that you don't want to fall out of status. So you either try to extend it or change it. And they're providing a little bit of leeway, USCIS, with late applications, but I wouldn't push it. So the best time to file an extension or change of status is while you're still currently in status. So don't wait, because you have to provide an explanation on why you're late, and you just don't suggest going down that road. So, all right. Okay. Do you guys have any questions on what we were talking about? Again, it's been a weird week. I did just hear that one of the officers involved in the George Floyd murder has been arrested, which is great news. And hopefully justice will be swift for the other officers involved as well. But in the beginning, if you're just joining, I talked about how you can be an ally for racial injustice and how I'm welcome anyone to join the conversation with me. If you have any questions, that's the other thing, if you're someone who maybe felt like you've made a mistake in the past dealing with racial injustice, or you have questions and like genuine questions or genuine concerns, we welcome those discussions too, right? Because it just being open about it and asking questions shows that you are interested in making changes, right? And so please, you can always call me and you can always talk to me about it. It'll be no judgment, right? It'll be a no judgment zone. Does anyone have any questions on anything that I talked about? Like I said, I try to keep it under half an hour. So I think I'm like right around 20 minutes or so. All right, then. So I guess I'll wrap up for this Friday. I will be back next Friday. I can't believe it's already June. It just feels like these 3 months, since all this quarantine and pandemics has started. It feels like it's been going by very quickly. I hope everyone's doing well and staying healthy. I always have to end my lives that way. So stay well, and I'll see everyone next week. And hopefully, if you have any other questions, you can always call my office. All right. Take care, everyone. Have a good weekend.